Hey Defenders, welcome back to our channel. So today, having said that this is the first episode in 2026, especially being a podcast, and this podcast is of utmost importance to me because this touches a very important topic for this year, DPDPA. So having said DPDPA, I would like to let you know this podcast is more of a conversational style where we don't use any jargons. We are just going to keep it as simple as possible. So to explain this a little more about, I have invited in Mr. Somnath Vardhan, the director of DigiAlert and also the head of governance, risk and compliance practices, DigiAlert. He has a profound impact on companies, whoever has been on their roadmap to governance, risk and compliance. Having said, he has extensive experience over 21 years in GRC space, and he has been a DPO for multiple companies, and he has helped multiple companies secure their SOC 2 journey, ISO 27001 journey, and the DPDPA journey as well, right? So having said that, without further ado, I welcome Mr. Somnath. Hi Somnath.
Thank you, Vinod. Pleasure meeting you.
Welcome to our sets. Before we get started, I would like to have a quick question clarified, right? So, one, having said we have seen IT Act, having said we have seen this, the GDPR, we have seen CCPA, California Consumer Privacy Act. What is so special about DPDPA? Because I see there is a different kind of a reception for DPDPA in our country today. And I see it is being a little positive for now. Right. So why is DPDPA different than rest of the other laws or standards or frameworks that we already have? Can you please shed some thoughts there?
All right. Thank you for bringing that, Vinod. It's definitely an interesting question. Maybe a couple of answers to the questions which you had. One is now DPDPA has typically brought out a lot of accountability. Earlier, it was not available, or it was available in a limited time frame or a scope. Now the accountability is clearly called out. And then the second option is for the board members or for the customers, they have started asking the questions to the other stakeholders, meaning that would imply the team has to follow, the organization has to step in, and then government has also mandated it. They have given a time frame. They have given associated penalties to that. So it's a combination of multiple other options towards your question.
Got it.
So that in fact makes the act even more positive, as you said, and there is also a necessity to go ahead and implement. We being a larger nation, we are collecting a lot of information, data. It's all now
Absolutely
going to be a streamlined one.
So maybe from an end user perspective, let me ask you this question: what is the biggest misunderstanding about DPDPA? Right. So.
Right.
I see people often associate DPDPA with data privacy, right?
All right.
Is that true, or can you please share some thoughts there?
Again, interesting observation there. We are talking about data protection at the first level. Okay. The other misconception which you also highlighted here is today, typically you meet any organizations, you meet a lot of people, you talk to the board members or you talk to the senior folks in the industry. The instant response you would get is, hey, I don't handle any data. Or rather, we don't handle any data. It's not like an intentional answer. It's like probably people are not aware on what kind of data is being collected, where is it being stored, and where is it being processed. So that would be the biggest misconception, if I may say. First thing, we don't handle data or we don't own the data.
Okay, so it's not about the intention per se.
No, it's not intentional. It's the awareness quotient is what I would like to refer it as.
Okay, so having said that, DPDPA versus a ground reality check.
Right.
So what is your take on this?
In terms of ground reality, yes, we definitely need to scale up on a humongous way to reach that, because today, typically SMBs or small and medium enterprises do not have a largely associated activities related to data protection. That's the reason I said it needs to be scaled up, and we have been thankfully given a lot of time towards implementing these things. So that is a positive sign, is what we would also see as industry leaders.
Okay, when we usually talk about acts or frameworks, right, we usually associate it with heavy penalties, heavy fines, and so on, right?
Right.
So that is understood, which is explicitly
Called out.
right? That's understood. So, based on your experience, is there any silent risks that leadership team usually misses out?
Right. The silent risks in terms of data protection is about the data which leaves your organization. For instance, your third-party vendors who would process your payroll, who would process your cloud-related activities, or any other instance across the organization, right? You know what kind of data is leaving your organization, and then you don't have any control on what's being done by your third-party vendors or your SaaS vendors.
Absolutely.
So that's the biggest lying risk or threat, if I may say, which typically organizations tend to overlook. Again, it's not intentional. One is they're not being used to that. Two, it's about the awareness quotient on that.
Right. I get reminded of a very interesting example that I saw in one of the DEF CON videos,
Right.
where someone talks about a bakery, right? And there is a bakery store where they bake cakes, right? And it is one of the top rated bakeries out there in that society. And to bake that cake, right, he brings in wheat, he brings in flour, he brings in sugar, he brings in certain syrup, he brings in chocolate syrups, and so on from various
vendors,
right? And what happened is, for the few years, that bakery was always known for the quality, that it always had a 5-star rating, right? Eventually, what happened? That 5-star rating dropped as low as 3-star rating, right? And later understood that the process what he is following with respect to how he baked was all the same, right? But still the quality was deteriorating. Looking at what actually happened, the sourcing team who sourced from the certain vendors for the wheat, certain vendors for the flour, and certain vendors for the sugar, etc. Right? So over a period of time, that vendors changed, right? Which had a adverse impact on the quality of the deliverable, right? So I can definitely correlate this example with what you're saying. It can be a direct supply chain issue,
absolutely,
right?
Absolutely.
And I think this is otherwise called the TPRM, third party risk management.
You're right, absolutely,
right?
Spot on.
So pretty excellent. So to ensure that the audience understand it even better, right? Even I hear a lot of terms when we talk about DPDPA.
Right.
What is that term that often used in both GDPR, CCPA, and DPDPA, like data controller, data fiduciaries?
Right.
So what are all these? Can you put it in simple, plain English terms that we all can understand?
Right. Interesting. You said data controller, right? That's a nomenclature, or in GDPR parlance, it's being used, okay? However, we call it as data fiduciary, meaning it could be a person, it could be an entity who decides what kind of data needs to be collected, why is it being collected. So that's in simple terms, okay? Having said that, now our DPDPA has also given us an additional accountability or a thought process on that, saying now anything goes wrong with respect to your data processor would also be the accountability from data fiduciary. And then the data fiduciary's responsibility to go back, fight with the processor, see what went wrong, do root cause analysis, and claim the penalty. That is one additional thing which is not available in GDPR. Okay, the onus is on the data fiduciary. There's another category called significant data fiduciary. You don't get to decide if you're a SDF or a significant data fiduciary. The government would notify you if you're a SDF. Okay. Example, there are multiple parameters how the government would notify you or classify you. It could be depending on the nation security. It could depend on the risk. It could depend on the volume of data you collect. Typical examples could be Google, Amazon, or Facebook, X. So all these things fall under a significant data fiduciary. Typically, a small or a business or a medium business would not fall under a significant data fiduciary. And this classification is not relevant towards the Western counterparts. It's only specific to our DPDPA.
So does it account both data at rest and data at transit?
Yes.
Okay.
So everything is being covered. Data at rest, data at transit. You need to cover the entire data lifecycle and ensure data is being protected.
Okay.
It all starts from why do I collect, where do I store it, who has all got access to that, and how is that being retained, how is that being securely destroyed, the end-to-end data lifecycle.
Got it. And when we talk about frameworks or standard or compliance, right? Usually, companies have a mindset. When I say companies, I'm talking about the internal teams in the companies.
Okay.
Who usually say it is a legal team's work, right? They usually park these compliances and these queries usually as a legal team's activity, right? So my question to you, is DPDPA only a legal department's activity?
One line answer to that is no. It's going to be a combination of various other parameters. It's operational in nature. Every team would also need to have their own responsibility. For example, the security owns the control, HR owns the data. So it has to be a hand-in-hand or a team activity. Legal could, of course, yes, draft reservations. They could say what could be the capable maximum cap in terms of penalty. That legal aspect, yes, they would be involved. But it's not only the legal team's responsibility.
Got it. So what's the right ownership model?
Accountability to be made, it has to be clearly called out by the management. And the working model has to be a collaborative approach among all the stakeholders, right from your HR to your marketing team, to your security team, to your IT team, put together.
Got it. So please tell me this, Home. I personally believe that there is nothing called 100% safe, right?
Fair enough.
Whatever controls you put, whatever products you have, I still believe there is still scope for attacker to do something about
Exploit,
it.
yeah.
So having said that, right, say there is a breach. You put all the controls in place and everything in place, you handle customers' data, and still there is some kind of a breach, right? So what is the breach response clause for the DPDPA?
Right. The breach, most important thing organizations face today is they do not know what to report, how to report, and whom to report. Probably whom to report is also known, but what and how is the $1 million question here. People typically do not know what needs to be done in that scenario. First thing is, it has to be decided if it needs to be reported. There's a team who's going to take care of all those things. It's an internal setup. Predominantly, it boils down to the basic question on the process. Okay. The bakery example which we are also talking about, it all boils down to the process, right? So you set up the process, you know what happens and who's accountable, who's responsible for all these activities. And then that's the workflow which needs to be continuously monitored and implemented across the organizations.
Got it. So this reminds me of this popular Microsoft's patches that they usually update. They call the patch
Tuesdays, yeah.
Right? But usually I have noticed a pattern specifically in the market where most of the breaches happen on the Wednesdays. Right? That I personally believe that it is because a patch is released on the Tuesday.
People
not all machines are patched.
Right.
And there is a chance for a motivated attacker to reverse engineer the patch and understand what that patch is going and fixing and trying to exploit that.
Perfect.
Right. So this reminds me of such a scenario.
Right. The time frame, the process, all goes hand in hand. Right.
Okay, having spoken a little about the breaches, right? So please give some idea with regards to penalties, right? Say I got breached, right? I reported, not reported. There is definitely a discussion to be done over it, right?
Perfect, yeah.
But say I got breached. Is there penalties? If there is, what and how?
Okay. Again, multiple answers to a question. Good or glad to know that you understand that you are breached. Okay, the foremost problem with the companies today is they do not know if they are breached or not. Good that you are in a position that at least you know. So after that, you probably need to understand the intensity of it. Okay, it's not like now DPDPA says the fines or the penalties go up to 250 crores. It's not like for a simple breach you will be fined up to 250 crores, right? It all depends on the intensity, the nature of the data breach, and then how deliberately did the organization or did the team did not look into the processes. It's a combination of all these factors which would determine what kind of penalties would be implied to you.
Got it. So when we talk about companies, right, we talk about small scale, micro scale companies, medium level companies, and enterprises, right? And most times than not, enterprises usually will have a legal team, IT team, governance team, large enterprises. They would have a proper corporate setup to monitor and adhere to certain standards.
All right.
What about micro and small scale companies, right? I think there is a lot of areas that these kind of companies have to focus on, right? So, having said this statement, does DPDPA apply only to enterprise organizations?
No. DPDPA is going to be applicable for all the domains, irrespective of the size of the organization or the scale of your organization, subject to you collect your employees' data, you collect and process your customers' data. So, the moment data gets involved, it invariably is going to be applicable for you. It's a myth that's saying, hey, I'm just a 100-member startup or a 200-member organization, DPDPA is not applicable to me. Again, it's the mindset and the transition which needs to be done. So we need to be very clear on who all is going to be implementing this DPDPA.
Got it. Let us focus on the
startups,
prone areas, like maybe SMBs, right? According to my understanding per the MSME's definition, companies above say 50 employees all the way to say 3,000 employees, right? Can we assume that's SMB?
To a larger extent.
Okay, all right. So for say I'm a SMB,
okay,
right? How do I get started with DPDPA? Where do I get started?
Right.
What is the first step I have to do to get started?
Perfect. Okay. First thing the organizations need to do is to understand what is the data they collect, the amount of data which is being collected, and for what purpose it's being collected, and where is it being stored. Okay. And then the most important thing is to do an analysis or an advanced study of data mapping, where all it flows and the touch points between multiple stakeholders. So that would be a first set of activity. Once that is done, you would need to go ahead and look into your detailed analysis to know how long are you going to retain this data, what is your legal and regulatory obligation, including your customer's obligation. It involves a lot of other parameters. So, simple terms, first step is to understand what is that you collect, why do you collect, and where do you store, and who has got access to that.
Got it. So, say we just spoke about SMBs, right? Now I'm going one more step to the south.
Okay,
right?
The micro and the...
Yeah, not even that. Startups.
Right.
So typically when you talk to startup founders, right, they all uniformly tell one answer, saying, Vinod, let me focus on the product and the process first. Business first, right? And then I will focus on the compliance, right? So what is your take on this?
Again, is the mindset is what I would say. To fix things during the initial stages is always cheaper. Privacy is definite. Security or privacy or data protection is definitely not cheaper. You going and doing it at the last end, fag end. Now, probably people have changed a lot from the earlier days. They understand the importance of security. They understand the importance of data privacy, data protection. And they have started to inbuild this into their BAU. Meaning they don't see it as separate verticals. They have started to inbuild that and then deliver products, which they also proudly claim, hey, my product is now secure, my product comes with these features. So they also see it as a selling point.
So how does DPDPA set expectations to the customers?